Welcome to today's video where we're going to dive into a key area of the European Union's work, the EU regional policies. In particular, we'll be focusing on how these policies aim to reduce disparities between different regions of Europe. And you might have noticed that some regions in Europe are more prosperous than others. Some are hubs of industry, innovation and wealth, while others struggle with unemployment, poor infrastructure and a lack of investment. And this economic imbalance between regions is one of the greatest challenges the EU faces. So how does the EU approach this problem? That's where EU regional policies, also known as cohesion policies, come in. These policies are designed to strengthen economic, social and territorial cohesion by addressing these disparities. The goal is to promote a more balanced development throughout Europe, ensuring that even less developed regions can catch up. But before we get into how these policies work, let's understand why these disparities exist in the first place. Historically, Europe's development hasn't been even. Industrialization, urbanization and globalization have benefited certain areas more than others. For example, regions with major cities, good infrastructure or proximity to trade routes have naturally attracted more investment and economic activity. And meanwhile, more rural, isolated or industrially declining areas have been left behind. These regional disparities can have a significant impact on the lives of EU citizens, influencing everything from employment opportunities to healthcare access. Recognizing this, the EU has made regional cohesion a priority in its long-term strategy. The EU's regional policy dates back to the 1970s, but it has evolved significantly over the years. Today, it is the second largest area of expenditure in the EU budget, just after the Common Agricultural Policy, and it represents about 1/3 of the entire EU budget. This financial commitment shows just how seriously the EU takes the issue of reducing disparities between regions. The EU's regional policy is built around several key funds, and the most important being the European Regional Development Fund, or ERDF, and the European Social Fund, the ESF. These funds provide financial support to regions that need it the most. So let's start with the European Regional Development Fund. The ERDF focuses on improving infrastructure, supporting innovation and promoting entrepreneurship, especially in less developed regions. Its goal is to help these regions become more competitive and economically diversified. This might involve funding for better transportation networks, building modern research facilities, or supporting startups and small businesses. For example, in some regions, ERDF funding has been used to upgrade roads and railways, making it easier for people and goods to move around. In other cases, it has funded projects aimed at increasing the digital capabilities of regions, such as expanding broadband networks or creating innovation hubs. And now let's talk about the European Social Fund. The ESF, as the name suggests, is focused on people. It aims to improve employment opportunities, promote social inclusion, and invest in education and skills. This is especially important for regions with high unemployment or where industries have declined. The ESF might fund programs that help workers retrain for new jobs or support initiatives that tackle social exclusion. For example, in some regions where traditional industries have disappeared, the ESF helps people acquire new skills for jobs in growing sectors like renewable energy or digital services. And it also supports initiatives aimed at improving education, ensuring young people are equipped with the skills they need to enter the modern workforce. A significant aspect of EU regional policy is its focus on sustainable development. The EU wants to ensure that economic growth in its regions doesn't come at the expense of the environment. This means that many of the projects funded by the ERDF and the ESF are designed with sustainability in mind. For example, funds might be used to support energy-efficient housing projects, invest in renewable energy sources, or help businesses become more environmentally friendly. Sustainability isn't just about the environment, it's also about creating jobs and boosting the economy in a way that can last for generations. By focusing on sustainable development, the EU is working to ensure that its regions can thrive economically while also protecting the environment. But how does the EU decide which regions need the most help? The EU classifies regions into 3 categories based on their GDP per capita: less developed regions, transition regions, and more developed regions. Less developed regions, where GDP per capita is less than 75% of the EU average, receive the most support. Transition regions are those where GDP per capita is between 75 and 90% of the EU average. And more developed regions with GDP per capita above 90% of the EU average receive less funding but are still eligible for some support. And this classification allows the EU to target its funds where they are needed the most. And by focusing on less developed regions, the EU aims to help them catch up with the rest of Europe. So, what are some examples of regions that have benefited from EU regional policies? Let's just take a look at a few cases. One example is in southern Italy. That's a region that has struggled with economic underdevelopment and high unemployment. And thanks to EU funding, there have been significant improvements in infrastructure, such as new highways and upgraded rail connections. And this has helped to make the region more attractive for businesses and tourists, boosting the local economy. And another example is Poland, one of the largest beneficiaries of EU regional funds. EU investment has helped modernize Poland's infrastructure, improve education, and support innovation, contributing to its rapid economic growth over the past decade. And these were just 2 examples, but they highlight the tangible impact that EU regional policies can have on improving the economic prospects of regions that have fallen behind. Of course, it's important to recognize that EU regional policy isn't without its challenges. Some critics argue that the funds aren't always used effectively, or that they don't always reach the areas that need them the most. And others point out that regional disparities still exist, despite decades of EU support. However, the EU is constantly working to improve how these funds are managed, ensuring greater transparency and better outcomes for the regions in need. Reforms are regularly introduced to streamline processes and make sure that funding delivers real, measurable results. In conclusion, EU regional policies play a crucial role in reducing economic disparities between regions across Europe. And through financial support and strategic investments, these policies aim to foster more balanced and sustainable development. And by focusing on infrastructure, innovation, education, and sustainability, the EU is helping its regions to become more competitive and prosperous. While, of course, challenges remain, the successes of these policies demonstrate their importance in shaping the future of Europe's regional landscape. So thanks for watching, and I hope this video has given you a better understanding of how the EU is working to reduce regional disparities across Europe. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more content on European policies. It's always better to watch the videos and not Google the EU after a certain referendum. Just a little joke right here. And if you want to see another video, the next one is right here in the end screen.